It's been a while since I've done some salmon, and today is the day that I'm gonna do some more. Because I'm gonna take a couple wild caught salmon fillets, give them a great marinade, get them on some cedar planks with some vegetables and grill them up, give them a glaze near the end, and we're gonna be eating good today. So here are my salmon fillets, 2 wild caught salmon fillets. That's just opposed to farm raised. These were wild caught that I was able to get at the market, and they look really good. Nice color on them. And I need to get these into a marinade because they're gonna need to marinate for a couple hours before we get them on the cedar planks and get them out on the grill. So let's get them in the marinade. So I wanna put them in a Pyrex dish here. Before I add the marinade to this, I want to get a little bit of flavor on the surface that's going to be part of that marinade because this is going to be a green tea ginger marinade. So I'm just going to put some crushed ginger on the surface of both of these fillets. I don't know, maybe a tablespoon on each. If you want to crush your own ginger, that's fine. I just love using it from this tube. I just want to sort of rub it into the surface here, get it distributed. Now we're going to add our green tea. So this is a green tea blend I picked up from a local store called Zest Tea House. I steeped it for a couple hours, chilled it down, and we're just going to add it here. Really, we only need to get it up to right about there on the salmon because we're going to turn these fillets over now so that the meat is really in contact with that marinade. All right, I'm gonna cover this up and get it in the refrigerator, and we're gonna move on to making a couple other components that we're gonna use when it's time to grill this. So after our salmon comes out of the marinade and we get it on the cedar planks, we're gonna put a little bit of some seasoning on it, kind of like a little bit of a rub. Very simple one, we're gonna get that out of the way right now. Start with half a teaspoon of kosher salt, half a teaspoon of a coarsely ground black pepper, a quarter teaspoon of dried dill weed, and a quarter teaspoon of cayenne. Now, if you don't want to, you could leave the cayenne out if you don't want any heat, but this is really gonna help kind of balance a little bit because the glaze we're putting on is pretty sweet. You can see there's not a lot of seasoning here. We don't need a lot. We're just gonna get a little bit on the surface before we get it on the grill. That's it. Let's move on to our glaze. Now the glaze we're gonna be using today is a maple pomegranate glaze. So yeah, pretty sweet. That's why that little bit of cayenne is just gonna help balance a little bit. We're starting with half a cup of maple syrup. To this, I'm gonna add half a cup of pomegranate juice. And then I wanna add about a tablespoon of fresh orange zest. And we're gonna mix this up. Now that maple syrup is fairly thin, which is good here. It's not as viscous as, say, honey, so this will mix a lot more easily than something like that. That looks good. Oh, it smells good. All right, I'm gonna get a lid on this. It's gonna go in the refrigerator and chill down. In a couple hours after our salmon is marinated, we'll get everything on those cedar planks, and we're gonna add some vegetables to the mix there too. So I'll see you back here in a couple hours. All right, our salmon's been marinating for a couple hours, and as I mentioned, we're gonna be doing some veggies with these on the cedar plank. So what I have here are zucchini and some other sort of yellow squash. I don't know the name of it, but they're similar. So I need to break these down. I'm only gonna use half of each of them. Take our little ends off here. I'm just gonna slice these into some, I don't know, maybe 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch rounds. I tried to escape. I'm gonna take these, put them in a bowl here, and hit this with just a little drizzle of olive oil, not much, some cracked black pepper, some salt, give these a mix. If you have any other kind of seasoning you like, this is a good time to use it on something like this. If you have a barbecue rub you like, throw it on these. Just like that, let's move on to getting our salmon on our cedar planks with these vegetables. So I've got my cedar planks here just on this sheet. It's gonna make it easier to carry it out to the grill. These have been soaking in water for about 2 hours. I just find that helps them not to flare up too much when you put them directly over the coals. Some people use no water, but it's really up to you, whatever works best for you. I find this works best for me. I'm gonna get my salmon fillets on here now. You want to arrange our veggies. I'm gonna try and get a little artsy here, alternating colors. Now I want to get some of that seasoning we made onto our salmon fillets. A nice little dusting here. That's looking good to me. Let's head out to the Weber kettle, fire it up, and grill this salmon and these vegetables. All right, the Weber kettle's ready. Let's get our salmon on. I'm gonna let this go for a minute before we put our lid on. Want to get those cedar boards charring a bit. And my vents are fully open on the Weber kettle, both bottom and top when we put the lid on. Not going for any temperature today, just hot. After we put the lid on, we'll check the temperature in about 10 minutes. Recommended internal temperature for salmon is 145. I like mine a little closer to 135. And if the edges of the board start to flare up too much, just squirt it with a little bit of water. All right, this is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and get my lid on. We'll check this in about 10 minutes. All right, we've been going 10 minutes. Let's check our temperature and see if we need to glaze right now. I'm gonna get right down here in the center. Looking at right about 102 degrees on that one. That's the bigger one. Let's see what the littler one's doing. That one's a little less. I think there's more heat on this side. I'm gonna swap them. Do you see how everything doesn't always go perfectly? I saved it though. I'm gonna get the lid back on, let it go about 5 more minutes before we glaze these. All right, we've been going another 5 minutes. It's time to glaze these. I'm gonna get the lid back on. I think in about 4 minutes, I'm gonna check the temperature. All right, let's check our salmon. Pretty sure it's gonna be done. Let's get the temperature in here. It's looking good. 133, close enough for me. This is coming off. I'll see you back inside when it's time to taste. Here it is, our salmon and veggies. There's a really good smell coming off of this from that maple pomegranate glaze. This is gonna taste good. But first, I'm gonna get the veggies out of the way. I mean, I like veggies, I really do. I love veggies. But in this, kind of the star of the show, we all know what it is. It's the salmon. So let's just taste some veggies first. Just simple seasoning on there, but getting some of that cedar smoke in there, really nice. I did another cedar plank salmon video, I can't remember how long ago, but I had mashed potatoes on the plank and those turned out fantastic. Now, let's dive into the salmon. Oh yes. And that skin peels right away when you do it like this. Let's see. That is some good salmon. That green tea marinade with the ginger, it just permeates. Just giving it 2 hours. You could go, 4 hours. I don't know that I would go overnight on something like this with that marinade, but just give it a little bit of time. Just add that extra flavor on the interior of the salmon. The glaze and that little seasoning is the exterior flavor, and everything complements just the natural flavor of salmon. For me, salmon is really my favorite fish to grill. It holds up well whether you're doing it directly on the grill or if you're doing it on a cedar plank or even in a pan over coals. There are other fish that taste good when they're cooked on the grill, but they take a lot more effort because they get so flaky, they want to fall apart. Salmon for me, just perfect. So if you've never tried grilling salmon on a cedar plank, it's a really nice way to cook it and to add a side dish right on the plank with it. And if you give it some sort of marinade before, you're just enhancing the flavor, and that glaze at the end to really finish it off, you're gonna end up with a fantastic and memorable piece of fish.